Hello everybody, welcome to The Take. I'm your host Krishna Mano, and let's start Season 2 with a new installment of our long-running segment, Deep Takes. In today's episode, let's cover one of the biggest mess-ups that has occurred because of a state government in my home state of Michigan, the Flint water crisis. First, we'll give some background of Flint, Michigan. Then we'll break down what exactly happened from 2014. Lastly, we'll look at some of the effects that the chemicals in Flint's water had, specifically on children. If we want to fully understand what happened in Flint, Michigan, we must look at the city's statistics before the water crisis. In the early and mid-1900s, Flint was a flourishing industrial city, as the home of General Motors, which oversaw cars made by Chevrolet, GMC, Cadillac, and many more. To accommodate the employment opportunities caused by the large automobile industry, Flint had 200,000 people in 1960. This was short-lived because in 1980, the city only had 100,000 people due to an increase in oil prices and auto imports from different countries. When workers were laid off, they relocated to find other job opportunities, and the population dropped by 100,000. The only times when a region's population should decrease this much is when there is civil unrest, when there are no human rights, or when the 8-year-old leader sells the entire military for 3 bags of blue Jolly Ranchers. Not red, not purple, but blue, and only blue. Anyways, the effect of the automobile industry of Flint shrinking is hurting residents even today. According to the Natural Resource Defense Council, Flint's poverty rate in 2018 was 45%. In 2011, when Flint had a $25 million deficit, similar to my bank account after I looked through a store's Lego aisle, Michigan's then Governor Rick Snyder chose an unelected emergency manager to reduce the city's costs. And this is where the problem starts. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next video. Did you guys fall for it? Obviously, we're just getting started, and I bet there are a million questions running through your mind. What actually happened? Who is the mastermind behind this? And who is the Spider-Man who saves the day for this scenario? Well, let's find out. Like I said before, Flint was in a great loss in terms of population as well as finances. This caused former Governor of Michigan, Rick Snyder, to appoint an emergency manager, Darnell Early. Mr. Early's job was to see where to reduce costs on the city's expenses. And although it is unclear who was the specific person to make this decision, a cost-cutting idea that was implemented was using a different water source. Originally, Flint got its water from Lake Huron via Detroit, but in 2014, they switched to using the Flint River. Immediately, the residents started complaining about its unnerving properties.
Water's brown. Has a bad odor. I'm afraid to even feed it to my cat or my dog.
If people are too scared to even feed something to pets, that's concerning, especially when dogs will eat just about anything. As President Biden said back in 1992.
I saw a little gray poodle once, about yay long. It looked like a mop, and it ate a USB disk. One biter.
Thank you, Mr. President. Back to the matter at hand. In order to cover up the quality of the water, ABC News reported that Flint made up results for tests to prove that the water was safe and made false assurances to the residents. But an employee who worked for the Environmental Protection Agency, or EPA, leaked a report that said that Flint's water had much higher lead levels than in normal water. And the city's response was that it was a plumbing issue and had nothing to do with the water source. This caused Virginia Tech and other researchers to do an investigation, and they found the same results as the whistleblower from the EPA. 17% of their water samples had more lead than the federal limit. They also found out that these chemicals were caused by corrosion in the iron pipes, which released lead and other health-damaging elements. Around the same time, Dr. Mona Hanna-Attisha, a pediatrician in Flint, was one of the first researchers to run a test on the lead levels. But Dr. Hanna-Attisha did something that I, my pet goldfish, this guy, or anyone else will have the guts to do. As she said in a USA Today interview, I did something totally disobedient in the academic doctor world. I literally walked out of my clinic and I stood up at a press conference and shared this research because there was no time. Every day that went by was another day that was putting our children at risk. The entire state and government went after her, saying her findings were wrong. But as more studies were coming out, more people started believing her. And it wasn't like the government didn't know about the water's lead levels. When a General Motors car factory complained that the lead was damaging their engines, Flint officials made an exception and rerouted the industry's water source to Detroit. And it's basic common sense that if something is affecting an engine, it must be affecting humans as well. Finally, under too much pressure, the Flint officials admitted that there were higher lead levels in the water because of the Flint River in September 2015. The government distributed water filters and switched the water source back to Detroit, but it still wasn't over because Flint's water caused an outbreak of Legionnaire's disease, which is a harsher form of pneumonia. Between 2014 and 2015, it killed 12 people and sickened at least 87. Researchers figured out that the disease was probably caused because the government failed to clean the water with chlorine. And when the government added more chlorine, without looking at the consequences, it increased the levels of cancer-causing chemicals. But the water quality has slowly improved over time, and the pipes in Flint are being replaced 10,000 as of July 2021. But just because they have changed the water source doesn't mean that the lead suddenly disappeared from people's bodies, especially considering that 26,000 children were affected by lead, including 9,000 that were under the age of 6. As the Washington Post stated, lead at any level in the human body can be dangerous and has been linked to a number of diseases, learning disabilities, and behavior issues. One 6-year-old, who is known to be hyperactive and well-behaved, cycled through 2 schools, received 30 suspensions, and racked up 70 unexcused absences because of the lead. The percentage of Flint students who qualified for special education services nearly doubled from 15% to 28%. Specialists determined that 80% will require help for a language, learning, or intellectual disorder. About 70% of students have required school accommodations for issues like ADHD, dyslexia, or mind intellectual impairment, and these are all long-lasting effects. And one of the most perplexing results was that 3 years after the crisis began, the percentage of 3rd graders in Flint who passed Michigan's standardized literacy test dropped from 41% to 10%. Even unborn babies were exposed to amounts of lead that even normal adults shouldn't have in their bodies. But thankfully, the doctor who released lead levels to the public, Dr. Mona Hanna-Attisha, created the Flint Registry, an organization funded by the CDC, in January 2019. The registry examines the long-lasting effects of the lead in kids and connects them with researchers and specialists who can help them out. CBS reported that 2,000 Flint children who were exposed to lead have been connected to services such as speech and occupational therapy, which some may need for the rest of their lives. The registry is still helping those affected by Flint's water, and although it was caused by the government's efforts to cut costs without looking at the impact on citizens, those same residents were the ones to step up and make things right again. Thank you so much for watching. I really hoped you got a better understanding of what actually happened in the Flint water crisis and how it has impacted children. I will see you in the next episode, but until then, stay safe and read the news.